ॐ सुमित्रिया नाप औषधयः
सन्तु
दुर्मित्रियास्तस्मै सन्तु यो अस्मान् द्वेष्टि यां च वयं द्विष्मः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Okay, so any questions from last time? Prashanti had some questions. Is that clarified, Prashanti?
Yeah, it is clarified.
I can do that.
Okay. Okay, so shall we skip 16 or would you like to do that again? I think that is clear enough. Shall we move on to 17?
Yeah, it is actually clear.
Okay. So we'll move on to 6:17. Who wants to take that up?
So I can try.
You want me to do that?
Okay.
The soul.
Prashanti is doing it first. Gauri. Prashanti, go ahead.
Okay. So here it says once the viveka happens, or the mukti happens, again the soul which is released from the bondage will not connect back to the bond. Is what it is. So when the viveka khati happens, basically you have become jivan mukta, and then you do not come under the bondage again, because if so, then there would be no point in putting so much of effort and getting the mukti also. And subsequently soul enjoys the freedom and more closer to the God than the matter. And probably sometime again it does take birth to pay for the karma phala, whatever it has accumulated, and pay for that when it comes back again.
Correct. So Prashanti seems to have covered the next one also, apurusharthatva manyatha.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Srividya, ask your question.
So there is some period given in that book, in book, the last but one line, it says after so many lakh years they come back. So on what basis did they put that actually?
This is given in some text. I have not managed to discover yet which text it is given in. I have a feeling it might be in one of the Puranas only, or it's in some Brahmana, I'm not sure. It's not given in the Vedas per se.
Okay.
Even in Manusmriti, I have not found it. So I don't know from where this mukti period has come. Yeah, but Swami Dayanand has mentioned it in Satyarth Prakash, and in general, that is what is repeated. I have asked people also, nobody seemed to know.
I'm just thinking maybe because they have Puranas only have this calculation of Kali Yugam of being so many thousands.
Correct.
So so many manvantaras being one. So after that, when the great deluge happens, so including all of that probably comes to so many lakhs of years.
So this is not the deluge. Between the manvantaras, there is also a pralay, which is not the full pralay which is there at the end of creation, but which is after 4.2 billion years. But this is a partial pralay. And even within a manvantara, you can have multiple pralays. Some of them are called Jal Pralay and Vayu Pralay, like that. So that means it goes back up to Jala, or it goes up, the dissolution goes up back up to Vayu, and then restarts from there. So there are, these are, you can say, subsidiary pralayas, while the main pralaya is separated. Creation and pralaya, the time period is 4.2 billion years. So that is the period. If I remember correctly, it is 1000 of these 4.2 plus 4.2, because pralaya is also for a period of 4.2. So that is 8.4 into 10 billion years.
Yeah, close to 1 billion years after only again we'll come back to the moksha, or the free soul also comes back after 1 billion years or something like that.
Yes, yes, yes.
That is after the main pralaya, or it is a subsequent pralaya?
This what is being talked about is the main pralaya.
Oh, after the main pralaya there. Okay.
Yeah.
So again the creation takes place.
No, you're talking of creation or return of Mukta Atma?
I'm just saying, a person who is already a Jivan Mukta and all freedom, free from all the bondages and all, that person just the Satchit Anand, and he exists and he's closer to the God, no doubt about it. But he comes back, once he dies and all, he goes and stays with the Satchit Anand. And then again he comes back, he or she comes back after how many, one pralaya is it?
No, 1000 cycles of pralaya and srishti.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
then it,
1000 pralayas, you can say. Okay. Okay. Then Gauri, you wanted to take up the next one, Vishesha Pattir Ubhayoh.
that is not much in that, and it says that Avishesha.
That is the 19th one.
And he said that, yeah, I just got it that there is no, here again he says there is no difference between bandh and the avivek. No, this is a Purva Pakshi says, no? This
No, this is the Siddhanta Pakshi only.
In bandha and moksha. Also, it's
It continues from the previous one, Gauri.
No, I didn't get this one.
Okay, you.
Yeah, I would like somebody else does it, no?
Okay.
So, can I?
Yeah.
You can go ahead and next I can do it.
Yeah, Prashant was mentioning that the Muktatma goes off for a long time, and then, if this were not that long, then why would one put in the effort to become a Muktatma, right? And continuing the same, if that was the case, then Bandh and Moksha would be the same. It's like, if it is that easy to go from being, Mukt to again back to be bound, or if it is that fast, then why would one, trouble oneself, and both would look like the same thing, right? The being a Viveki and a Viveki would look like the same if it were not for this kind of a situation where if you really tried hard and you became a Muktatma, and you'd be gone off and be Mukt for a long, long time.
Correct. Exactly. Okay,
let me do this one. 20th I can do it. Shall I do it now?
You want to do Muktirantaraya Dhvaster na Paraha?
Yeah. She says once the moksha prapti happens, then all the sorrows get removed. So we are not again dukhi or so. We are free from all sorts of bondages and all. But the Purva Pakshi says that there are some hurdles are there. Whereas the Kapila says the hurdles and what you mean is the same, more or less is the same thing. Because of the hurdle, we have the frustration, and because of the frustration, we have the sorrow. So our says, once the sorrow gets removed, automatically the hurdle also gets removed. That's what he's saying that. And he says, Antaraya Dhvansate. That means all the hurdles automatically get removed. This is what
it's the other way around. The hurdles get removed, and so there is no sorrow.
No
But it's
sorrow.
okay.
Okay.
Either way, it's all right as you understand it.
So this is the Purva Pakshi saying that.
Yeah, but
The
you have
hurdle-
covered the second sutra also, that is Tatrapya Virodha, where Kapil says that basically that is also correct.
Yeah, it's a continuation of that.
Uh, yeah,
Only one
actually,
point, Uttaraji.
yes, tell me.
I think here the Purva Pakshi is bringing a mundane aspect of what is moksha, which is simply saying all the dukkha's of life, which are like the hurdles get removed, is how mukti is defined. What are you trying to say, etc. So here Kapil is saying, I'm not saying that is not true. Yes, obviously the hurdles of life are removed by it, but there is a lot more to it, is what he's intending to say.
Yeah, that is correct. So that is why his definition of atyanta dukha nivritti is more all encompassing than antaraya dhvaste. But even if you look at it only as antaraya dhvastanam, or you look at it as the dukha nivritti, the fact is that you have to break your antaraya or dukha, you have to move out of this world. So either way, it is a large concept only, but two ways of looking at it. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
See
Okay.
the hurdle, Uttara,
Hmm.
is it not the hurdle create the sorrow?
Yeah, that is what.
Yeah,
So,
hurdle creates the sorrow, and that's why we get frustrated, and then we get into the kama, krodha, and all comes, and then again we get into the bandha, and the aviveka comes to us. And the moment viveka comes, all these things, the hurdle, the sorrow, everything drops off on its own automatically, and we get into the moksha.
Correct. Right. Okay, you guys seem to have got it all.
Or I have one more question in that.
Okay.
So, or does it also cover the fact that, sometimes we may not have any hurdles, but still there is a little bit of restlessness always in us, or a kind of not a very unsettling feeling. Is he, also trying to cover that also? I mean, it's not necessarily only the laukika hurdles of, everyday life.
Yeah.
Right?
That is also.
So I think Kapila must have meant that also as well, right? Everything.
Yes. That is also antaraya only. Any kind of discomfort which you are feeling, if there is
that is also considered as a hurdle.
Yes, that is also a hurdle only. Okay, so now you can unmute yourself, or sorry, mute yourself, and
Uttara.
Yeah.
Uttara.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to basics. See, we are always talking about being reborn as either as a human being or into a lower level of life, right?
Yeah.
And Hinduism is the one who believes in the soul and rebirth and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are reborn, can we be reborn anywhere in the world or only as Hindus, or how does it work?
Oh, you can be reborn anywhere in the universe. And you can be reborn. If you can be reborn as a giraffe, then why should you be born only as a Hindu? So depending
No, I'm talking only about when you are reborn as a human.
As a human, right? So
yeah.
Even if you have to be reborn as a human, firstly you could be born anywhere in the world. There is no necessity that you have to be born as a Hindu only next time, and you should have converted to Hinduism in this birth, and then only in the next birth you will get Hinduism. That is not correct. And also you could be born even on another planet where evolution has gone up to humans. So you could be even born somewhere else in the universe.
No, but,
No, but suppose,
Just Kala, you complete?
yeah, no, suppose I am born into a group of people who don't believe, I mean, who don't know about the soul, now leave alone believe,
Mhm.
who don't have this knowledge, then what happens to me?
So see again, how much you are born into ignorance depends on how much viveka you have gained in this birth. That is why it is so important for you to collect as much knowledge as you can in this birth. Otherwise, in your next birth, if you become completely detached from your values, from your understanding of what things are, it is possible you may be born in the US, or you may be born in South America or somewhere. If you have kept learned sufficiently about all this reincarnation, etc., there is a good likelihood that you will be born back in a family which already believes in this, and so you get again a head start uh, in your sanskaras.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing as because even in human beings there is a huge spectrum of ignorance to knowledge. So
Yeah.
where you take yourself in this birth will determine where you are born in the next birth. So typically God is kind, and will uh, he will make sure that he gives you an even better birth than you probably deserve. But let us say we take it as he gives us what we deserve, to be just on the safe side. Then also it will be determined by how much you have worked in this birth. It will not come automatically.
Okay.
Okay.
That's very well explained and a good perspective. Huh? I never thought about that, Uttaraji. Thank you. Thank you.
I thought of this on my walk yesterday.
Oh my God.
Ah,
That
yeah,
if I'm
good.
on some island next birth, what am I going to do? Sorry.
Yeah, see, actually, you may be even born into Hinduism, but you may
Okay.
be born into a family which does not really practice Hinduism. As you know, there's so many people in India among Hindus who do not know anything about Hinduism. Okay, so if
Okay.
you are born in such a family, also again you have an uphill task to learn everything again. So that is why
Yeah.
we say that you if you are sufficiently, you teach yourself in this birth, then hopefully in the next birth you will be born into a family, which is already a very sanskari family. Then you can
Okay.
start from there.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Why not moksha? Why not moksha this time itself?
Yeah, let's see, Anuj. Let's work at it. Huh?
Uttaraji,
Haji.
Uttaraji, here, I was like thinking of the perspective. Is this the reason that, the explanation that you gave, is it the reason that some of the families know they are highly educated since 2-3 generations or beyond that? At least we come to know of those 2-3 generations. Or for example, they are into charities, 2-3 generations, or they have been doing very good work. Is it the explanation that you gave that they do so well in that kind of environment, pertaining to that environment, that they come back to the same place, or a similar place?
Correct. Correct. So what you have worked on in this birth, you are probably likely to continue it in the next birth. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you motivated yourself to do more charity, etc., you are likely to have opportunities for that in the next birth as well. That is what I had told sometime back for geniuses also. When we say, I think Mozart started composing at the age of 8 or something like that. or Beethoven. I've always mixed up the two. So that fact that that child started making musical compositions at 8 is a reflection that probably in the last birth he has already worked pretty hard on that area, and that knowledge is being carried forward. But
Yeah, thanks. It's a very good explanation, I thought. And same thing is, on the negative aspect, a human being, right from the deepest of the negative to the best of the positive, we have a spectrum. So if we have read about, some people are thieves because they have seen their fathers being thieves, and they are into that thievery environment throughout their life. So that what explanation is making more sense. See, murderers also, it runs in the family kind of a thing,
Exactly. So you are born with those genes, which you have actually, you can say you have inherited from your parents, but actually you have inherited from your previous janmas. So,
correct.
So that is why I say don't blame your parents for anything. You are what you deserve. So parents are not to blame for anything. You are born.
Yes, good one.
List.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this explanation. I'm going to live lifelong, let me do good things so that I can continue.
Yeah.
Good, Mala.
Oh, hi, Kala. What did you say?
Anuj will have moksha and you are on path of it. So good work.
That is exactly your aim, Prashanti. What are you trying to say now?
Yeah, you.
What is that? What is that? All right. Okay, folks. So we'll move on to the next sutra. So maybe you can mute your mics. Adhikari Travidyan Niyamaha. So this now in the 22nd sutra, Kapila moves on to another aspect of moksha. So he says that there are three types of people who deserve mukti, and because of that, it is not fixed when any person will achieve moksha. Okay, you may recall this exactly the same wordings in sutra number 1, chapter 1, 35th sutra, but there the context was different. There we had, however, the meaning is to that extent similar, that adhikari trevidyam. This adhikari, the person who is eligible for anything is called an adhikari. So those adhikaris can be split into 3 categories. These, if you remember, in Yoga Darshana, it was given as Tivra, Madhyama, and Manda. Also, you can look at Uttama, Madhyama, and Adhama. Okay, so various names, other names can also be said, Nikrisht and Prakrisht, etc. The fact remains that it is divided into high, medium, and low categories. Okay, so the people who are in the higher category are closer to mukti. Those in medium are a little bit further away, and those in low are that much further away. Okay, so you cannot say that from the age of 3 I have been working towards moksha, yet I have not attained it in this life. This other person is working from the age of 12, and at the age of 40 he has achieved moksha. So why am I not getting moksha? So he is saying that there is no rule when you will obtain mukti. How much honest effort you put. So much of our life we put in dishonest effort to show to somebody else, while actually internally we are not feeling something. This has, in mukti you cannot cover up your actual intentions and how much real effort you are putting in, because the one who is observing you is God only, and God only is determining when you are ready for mukti. So he says this amount of time, amount of effort required is not fixed. Okay, Gauri, I'm muting you. So we now come to the 23rd sutra. Dadhyartha muttaresham. So he gives the reason why they are split into three. Uh, Even the ones who are in the higher category are still waiting. They are still only eligible. They have not attained moksha. So why split at all? Or why split into three? Why not into 10, etc.? So 3, of course, is a good number. It gives us a very good conception, a conceptual understanding of the ones who are at the top, ones who are in the middle, and ones who are at the bottom. Now you divide into 5, you cannot even give a good adjective. So typically we divide into 3. Here Kapila says that the Madhyama and the Adhama have been included for the reason of making them more steadfast in their effort. So he doesn't want that if you are told that okay, now you have become eligible for mukti, and you are not told at which level you are, there is a tendency to give up effort and say okay, now I am eligible. You become satisfied, you become complacent, and you stop putting in extra effort. But actually you are at the lower end, and you have to still continue to work harder in order to achieve mukti, because as we have seen, the samadhi state is not maintained uniformity. You will start getting it in stages. So to increase the length of the period for which you have viveka khyati, you have to practice harder and harder till finally it becomes a viplava, viveka khyati. So that is the reason why this gradation is there, and this is to encourage people at the adhama and the madhyama level, to tell them that see, there are higher levels, you still have to work harder, don't give up right now. All right. Okay. So I think at this logical point, we will close this meeting and we will move into the next one. All right. I'm ending this meeting for everybody now. Please join the next one.